So let's get back to where we were on page 72. What do y'all notice about the inequalities in numbers 1 through 5? Mainly the format. Are they the two formats that we've done primarily? The two formats that we've done primarily are factored and standard form. Are those all factored or standard form? And what did I give you in your notes that must be on the right-hand side of every inequality? A zero. Do you notice many zeros there? Tell me what else you notice about two of those problems. Yeah, there's a cube in there. There's a cube. Have I taught you how to do cubes yet? But in this case, we haven't had a section on solving cubes. But what you've got to understand about Cambridge is once you've seen it, they expect you to have it as a tool in your tool belt for solving problems. And we're going to talk about 4 and 5 here in a little bit, but those are cube problems. Okay, so let's pick up with number 1. So I want y'all to all do number 1. Okay, this is going to be part of your quiz tomorrow. And you can use your notes from yesterday. Okay. You might want your calculator out. with step 1. Find the roots. So what can you do to easily find the roots? Polysolve. Now let me just make this blanket statement right now, and it's on video, so we can come back and I can show it to you if anybody wants to argue with me later. So when we start really reviewing for the examinations in May, you may have to put down the factored form of this, or at least write out the quadratic formula. If I start looking at mark schemes, and I can't remember exactly, because this is really the first year that I've paid attention to Polysolve on the calculator, but if you just put down the 2 roots and they want to see the work and it's going to cost you points, we will come up with the work to put down, either through factoring, x plus 6, x minus 7. Okay, we will come up with the factor, or we'll come up with a way to show the work. But right now, I'm just really more concerned about y'all learning how to do the sign chart. So we said the 2 roots were -6 and 7, correct? Okay, so then you had to create your sign chart. What -6 went here, 7 went here. You have 3 sections. Does everybody see that? We were reminded of that from yesterday. That section, the section less than -6, between -6 and 7, and then greater than 7. So you are supposed to pick a point less than -6 and check it here. Then you pick a point between -6 and 7, check it here, and then pick a point greater than 7 and check it for the sign. All I'm interested is in the sign. I believe it went plus, minus, plus. So now I've got to know which one to write. Well, I'll look back at this, right, and determine that I need which signs, or which sign? I need the negative because I want less than 0. So that's the section that I want, so I write it as -6, less than or equal to 7, less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 7. That's your answer. So let's look at number 2 real quick. The format is a little bit different, and guys, I could sit here and teach you 24/7, and it doesn't mean that I can cover every format that they will give you. So that's what I'm talking about, is you have got, you might say, well, Miss Knight never covered this with us, but what should you know to do on this? Yeah, FOIL or distribute, and then what? Move the 9. It shouldn't matter. I should not have to go over every single type of format. So we're going to do x plus 1 minus 9. So that's x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 9. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 8 less than 0. All right, go ahead and do your polysolve on that. positive and negative, so you want to put it in the one that shows it to 0. Yes. Good question. Do not put it back in up here at the top. You want to substitute it in the one that's got the 0. That one. Y'all follow me? That should be a -4. Sorry about that. Y'all follow me with the sign chart and the signs so far? Everybody's got what I got? All right, so looking back at the inequality, I want the negative section. So that gets written -4 is less than x is less than 2. You can check it, plug it in here, plug a number between there, and that should be true. All right, now let's look at number 3. What do you think you'll do with number 3? Distribute, go ahead. I want y'all to go ahead and start working from this point. I want you to do the whole thing. Okay, so if you do this and try to solve that, you're going to be wrong. Got to move that 12 over. This has got to be 0. Right there. So tell me what your two roots were. Positive, negative, positive. You want the negative section. Okay. Any questions on that one? All right, let's talk about 4 and 5. Now, let me tell you what they intended about 4 and 5. Now, we have not really solved quadratics. Not quadratics, cubics. But guys, there's something I can do to this. Now, I'm going to show you this to show you what Cambridge's intentions were, and then I'm going to show you a really easy way out for you. But what do both of those have in common? An x. So they're intending for you to look at that and not say, I don't know how to solve a cubic. But what they're intending for you to do is look at that and go, oh, okay, I can factor out an x. And so x, one of my roots has to be 0, and then that's a polysolve. The other two of my roots are those. All I did is factor out x is 0, 1 minus x squared equals 0, negative x squared equals negative 1, x squared equals 1, x equals plus or minus 1. Okay? So that's all they intended on you to do. It's still a quadratic. But take your calculators out and go to polysolve. And look at the one underneath. It is a what? Cubic. So in this case, if you'll look at the cubic, it goes ax cubed, bx squared, cxd. So there's 4 terms. Your a shows up in front of x cubed. What am I going to put in for a here? Negative 1. My b shows up in front of x squared. What is my b? 0. I have no x squares. My c shows up in front of x, and my d is the constant, 0. So when you put those in, you should get the same 3 roots that I told you you would get. Okay? So they're not trying to be tricky. They're just assuming that you can look at that and know how to factor it out and get the roots. So let's talk about, now we have 3 roots. So I have 2 extremes, less than, greater than, and then I have 2 in-betweens. Okay, go ahead and check and get the signs of the 4 sections. So tell me what you got as your signs. All right, positive, negative, positive, negative. Now let me show you how I know that that is true. This is a cubic. A cubic that is positive does something like this. Okay? Where this section would be negative, positive, negative, positive. This one has a downward slope. So this section is positive, negative, positive, negative. Now, which one of these do I want? Which sections? Negative. Okay? So, I have the section between -1 and 0 and the section greater than 1. So you may have more than one section. That's how you put it. So questions with that one? Okay? All right, I need a couple of volunteers when I talk about number 5 to do something for me. I need some people to raise your hand. Now, the normal way we would work this is move these to the left. I want a couple of people to raise their hand and move the x cubed to the right. Somebody be willing to work it that way. All right, Chloe, anybody else? All right, Melanie. So, I want to, and look, I'm doing this for a reason. It's a learning. I want to bring this up so the rest of you can move everything to the left. Chloe and Melanie are going to move the x cubed to the right. Okay? All right, work on that. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, so I want to talk about this for a particular reason. All right, we should have all gotten the same roots. What were they? 0, 2, and negative 3. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do one over here for Melanie and Chloe. Now, I imagine that y'all, everybody else but them, got that. Y'all, I imagine, got that. Okay. This would look to be completely wrong, that somebody would be in the wrong. Okay? And I'm going to argue no, and this is the reason. So this group, y'all did this. Okay? So you're looking for the what? Positives, right? You're looking for the positives, which is this section and this section. Now let's talk about what Melanie and Chloe did. So they would have looked at that and gone, okay, I did this. But this right here, we're not looking for the positives. If you look for the positives, you will give me 2 wrong answers. But this is 0 is less than or equal to x, so I'm sorry, 0 is greater than or equal to x, or x is less than or equal to 0. So they're looking for the what? Negatives. Do you understand that I don't want y'all accidentally on one of the test questions to think, oh, the easiest thing is I'll move that over here and I'll get this. I'm still looking for the pluses. You have to read it backwards if your zero's on the left. Okay, so this is no longer positives. I'm wanting the negatives. Do those happen to be the same sections for both people or both groups? Yes. So we should have gotten negative 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 0, or x is greater than or equal to 2. If it were me, and I'm just going to put this blanket statement out there, I'd move everything to the left and leave the 0 on the right. Then you don't have to remember to read the inequality backwards. Okay, so I just put everything on the left. All right, so now that is what we did yesterday. Are we okay with those? Y'all can do those no matter what I throw at you. Okay, so now let's look at, oops, didn't mean to do that. Cancel. All right, let's look down at 6, and if you'll read the instructions on 6, we're fixing to take the last or one of the previous lessons and I'm combining it with this lesson. So read the instructions for number 6. So do y'all remember that when we did discriminant, it was b squared minus 4ac. If we had 2 roots, it was, if we had 1 root, it was, and if we had no roots, it was, okay? So now guess what? When we did these before, for the most part, k was not a quadratic. It was easily solved for. But now k is going to make us a quadratic. So we're going to combine the discriminant with our quadratic inequality. So let's look at 6a. So we've got kx squared plus kx plus 2 equals 0. And they said in 6, find the values of k for which the following equations have 2 separate roots. So which one of these am I using? Greater than. Because I want the 2 separate roots. So we're going to set it up. What's my b in this problem? So k squared minus 4 times, what's my a? What's my c? 2. Now, I don't put equals 0 like I almost did. I have to put what? Greater than 0. Okay, are there any questions with how I set that up or where these came from? My b is right there. My a is right there. And, of course, that's my c. So k squared minus 8k is greater than 0. So I'm wanting to know the values of k that will give me 2 roots. So what am I going to do at this point? Go to what? Polysolve. So go ahead and do that. I think there's 0 and 8. Okay. Go and get your signs now. Guys, how can you easily fill in these signs? You don't even have to do the test if you know. What is this a picture of? An upside down U or a right side up U? What's going to be the furthest to the left? Positive. What's going to be in the middle? What's going to be furthest to the right? Now, I don't mind you checking them. All right, it's looking for the which ones? Positive. So that will give me this
Bus
one.
riders, I need to let you know about a bus combination. Bus number 18 will ride on bus number 22 today. So 18 will ride on 22. Thank you.
Now, so k can be less than 0 or k can be greater than 8. It cannot be equal to 0. They said in the instructions to check when k is equal to 0 to check. So we did have a 0 here, but 0 minus 0 would have to be equal to 0. It's not. It's greater than. So That's not an equal to, it's a less than. All right, let's see if y'all can set up 6B. Now, guys, another question that came up is when you're checking your test points, you do put it back into this, not into the original quadratic. That's a little confusing. This is the only quadratic inequality. This is a quadratic equation. So this is the one that you do your test points in. Okay, did y'all poly solve this to get your roots? What did you get? Okay. This is a negative, so it would have looked something like this. So this should have been negative, positive, negative. It's the way your sign chart should have looked when you tested your numbers. -2 would have been a good one. 0 would have been a good one, and 2 would have been a good one. Did anybody not get these? All right, it's wanting the positive, so it's wanting that. So you've got -3/2 is less than x is less than 3/2. Okay, the last one we're going to do is 6C. All right, let's see if you can do that one from start to finish. These are the only two things on your quiz tomorrow. Is everybody done? Okay, so let's work this one. What was your B?
Yeah, they're all
Oh, and 7C. Oh, I'm sorry, did I write down the wrong one? I did. All right, let me change this one up. Did anybody do this one off the board?
I tried.
Okay, well, let's work it, and then I'll come back and work 6C, actually. So this one was 7C. So since, McCartney, you could help me with this all on your own. So what was your B?
Yeah.
What's B up here?
Negative
-5.
5. Okay.
Okay, very good. And what do we do to the B?
I didn't get very far.
It's okay. You square it. B squared. -4 times, what's my A? And my C? Very good. And it's got to be, we're going to do this one greater than 0 since I lumped this up with number 6. What is -5K squared? Very good. -4 times 1 times -2 is, all right, go to your polysolve and tell me what the roots are. I think it's positive and -4/5, but I'm not. No, that's not gonna be it. I need to look at it.
Confusion.
0 and -8/25. Okay, that's all right. So this is 0 and this is -8/25. All right, this is an upward facing U, so it will be positive, negative, positive. So McCartney, if I'm wanting all things positive, which two sections am I wanting? How would I write it? But I want this section, so I'll write K is less than -8/25. And then I also want this section, so I start with K. K is greater than 0. Very good. All right, let's go back and do the real 6C.